Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call a special meeting of council for February 11th to order at 5:01 p.m. It hereby resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented. Could I have a moment, please? Burnbaugh, seconder, Councillor Sliker, all in favor? Carried. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Councillor Hunt attending the meeting?
Councillor's in the corner.
Yeah, I'm online.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome, we have a delegation today to St. Andrews Airport Board Inc. on their budget presentation, and I'd like to welcome Russ and Zach. Would you like to proceed, please?
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. Thank you for the introductions. I'm Russ Paradosky, Chairman of the Airport Board, and our Airport Manager, Zach Holden, to my left. Like we do every year at this time, we present the annual results from the prior year, plus the budget for 2025 for the coming year we're in now. We also talk about the capital budget at this time. So we've issued 4 reports last week to council. First report's the 2024 results along with the 2025 budget on operations. Second report is the internally funded capital fund for 2025 and what we spent in 2024. The third report is our externally funded ACAP Transport Canada program. Which is really called the Airport Capital Assistance Program. So that's our third report we'll go into. And the fourth report, we're giving you an update on the baseball diamond parking lot project as of January 1st, 2025. I know our time is limited, so we're just going to present in summary form. And I'll ask that any question be left to the end of all 4 reports. Let's move on to the first report, the St. Andrews Airport operating budget for 2025. It's set up with 3 columns, the 2024 budget, 2024 actual, and the budget for 2025 is the third column. Last year, in terms of total revenue, the budget was $1,305,000. Our actual revenue was $1,252,000. So we're under budget by about $50,000. And the reason for that is the major new tenant that's called Simair was supposed to start operation in 2024. Their financing fell through. They didn't go ahead with the project. Their building is now, their big hangar that they did build is being leased by another business. So we're going to get the rental revenue from that business, but we're not getting the fuel concession revenue that we anticipated. So you'll see that under the third line of revenue. We did budget $368,000 last year. We only received $321,000 of fuel concessions. In terms of expenditures, last year we budgeted $849,000. We spent less than that by $40,000, $809,000. So we did get less revenue, but we did underspend on the spending side. So all in all, the bottom line, if you look at the third line from the bottom, our budget for last year with surplus was supposed to be $340,000. We came in at $321,000, so about $19,000 under budget. And every year of that $300,000, we put that money into the capital fund. We'll see that on the next page. So essentially all the profits at the airport are turned into the capital fund and we reinvest into the airport operation or the capital assets. Now getting into the budget for this year or 2025, and we do budget the revenue on a very conservative basis. So we do expect to meet that revenue budget of $1,338,000. You can see the 2 top lines, there's big increases on the rental and common area recoveries. Those are from our tenants and they're $376,524. So they're up about, in total, about $100,000 from the prior year's actual. And that's because we're now fully leased. All the expansion we did to the south, all those lots and hangars are now in place. So we're reaping the benefits of that business plan that was put in place in 2018. So again, total revenue budget for next year is $1,338,000, or for this year, we're in 2025 already. Our expenditure budget next year is $918,000, up from the actual spending last year of $809,000. So we're spending roughly $100,000 more this year. And basically in three categories: facility repairs and maintenance. The budget, or the actual we spent last year was 51,000. Our budget this year is 112,000. And the main expenditure for the increase on that expenditure, we're doing all the line painting on the runways, aprons, taxiways. We're also doing the line painting on the new baseball diamond parking lot. So all those lines will be painted there. So that's why that budget line's increased by double, actually. We're also doing more repairs and maintenance on equipment. One of our big pieces of equipment, our loader, which is 35 years old, we inherited from Transport Canada. We're having to do some major repairs on that. So that budget's at 37,000. We only spent 26,000 last year. Other item we increased is parts and supplies. And again, that's on the maintenance side. We increased that from a $22,000 expenditure last year. We're budgeting $28,000. One item we did decrease on the expenditure line is advertising and promotion. We spent, and our budget last year was roughly $20,000. This year, the budget's only $10,000. And the reason for that is last year we spent $10,000 on the 60th anniversary event. So in total for this year's 2025 operating budget, $1,338,000 of revenue, less expenditure budget of $918,000. Our net income is projected to be $420,000 before amortization. We deduct amortization or depreciation. The net income for next year projection is $296,000. Let's move on to the second report, and that's the capital report. So I'm just going to concentrate on the first two columns, 2024 actual and the 2025 projected. In terms of our capital balance, when we started the year in 2024, we had $682,000 in the capital fund cash account. And added into that is the items we bring into the capital, and the three of them that come from operations are as follows. Common area cost recoveries, we allocated from operations $115,618 last year. We allocate 25% of net operating income, bottom line income. So that was $78,793. And to meet the payment, the principal payment to the RM, the annual payment on the South Expansion project, we allocated from operations $114,368. Now, if you were to add those three items up, they add up to $308,000, which is roughly what our profit was last year. I think it was $319,000. So like I said, we basically take all the profit and we put it into the capital fund. A couple other items went into the capital fund last year as sources of funding. From the airport reserve, we allocated $113,750 towards the baseball diamond parking lot and baseball diamond project. The other items that came in were added up to $278,998, and that was two sources. From your recreation reserve at the RM, $142,498 was put into the capital fund, and from the province we received $136,500 for the baseball diamond project, which is 60% of the funds or the grant we're going to receive. So when you add all that up to the starting point of $682,575, we had capital cash available of $1,384,000 to start for 2024. Then we get into the expenditures on the capital side last year. First of all, we made the principal payment to the RM, $114,368. And we spent so far on the baseball diamond parking lot and baseball diamond, $414,784. So roughly those two items are $529,000. Then we did 6 projects last year, individual projects out of the capital fund. Pardon me, there's 7. There's one at the bottom. And I'll ask Zach to just comment briefly on each one of them.
So starting off with the compound parking lot, we did some concrete in front of our shop to try to get rid of the lake that was there and all the ruts. So that was just a bit of concrete. That was pretty straightforward. The Kubota tractor for $158,000. That was replacing our 1991 John Deere tractor that we inherited from Transport Canada. So that was well overdue. The Schulte mower for $50,000. That was replacing our old Schulte mower, which we actually purchased from the RM probably 20 years ago. So once again, another overdue replacement. The sweeper dolly, that was to modify our new sweeper because we were having issues. Essentially, the new sweeper was too heavy for the tractor, and we did a dolly modification to make it work better and increase the life of both the tractor and the sweeper. Next line, apron one expansion for 110,000. We expanded our main apron one to allow for new tenants. A couple of those tenants were including that Simair, which is now a different company, and then another large, very comparable size company in Hanger. So that 110,000 we'll see back probably within a year or two.
It also included the cost of taking down the old tower, removing the
Yes.
tower.
Yeah, we had to remove the old tower to utilize that land properly.
And the last item was fencing. We did some fencing work.
Oh, the 100?
Yeah.
Oh, that was just some, we did some fencing to reduce incursions. Basically, we put a fence in between a couple hangars where we find hot spots where people like to drive on and end up places they aren't. So that's what that $8,000 was, to prevent people from going where they shouldn't be.
Okay, so we spent 903,897 last year on capital projects. With the cash inflows and the starting cash position of 1,384,000, we're left for $480,000 of capital cash carried forward into 2025. That takes us over to the second column, the start of the new year budget for capital, $480,205. Again, we're allocating 3 items from operations. The common area cost recoveries, $128,592. 25% of the projected operating income, which comes to 72,929. The allocation from operations to make the payment to the RM on the principal loan, 117,890. And the remaining grant from the province on the baseball diamond and parking lot is $91,000. So that's going to come into the capital fund this year. So the subtotal is $890,615 available to spend on capital in 2025. So the items we're spending on in 2025 are as follows. We're making the loan payment to the RM, $117,890, and we're spending the leftover money on the baseball diamond parking lot of $68,964, and we'll get into that on the last report. Now I'll ask Zach to comment on the 6 projects we're planning and out of capital this year.
So the first item I have is the flat deck trailer for $20,000. That is for emergency airplane recovery. We used to have one, it got stolen. We just need to replace it. In the meantime, we've borrowed a trailer, the last recovery we had. The next item, front gate for Southgate Road for $30,000. That's replacing our old gate there. That was one of the original transport gates and does not function anymore. So we need to replace that and spruce up the airport a bit, make it a little more welcoming to come in. Next item, the operation building extension for $70,000. Now that we've modified our larger sweeper and added the dolly, it's too long to fit in the shop. So we're extending the shop a bit so that we can fit it all in at once without having to continually hook and unhook the sweeper every day. Next item, runway lights 1836 for $50,000. That's part of a 3-year plan to replace all the incandescent bulbs with LEDs for 2 reasons. 1, to lower our cost of electricity, and 2, the incandescents are getting very difficult to source. So we want to replace with LEDs before we can no longer get bulbs. Moving down, parking lot meter for $15,000. That's for the new baseball parking lot to help recover our investment. Resurfacing runway 0422 for $360,000. That runway was supposed to be repaved in the 90s back when Transport Canada was running the airport. They never did that. So we're looking at different ways that we can extend the life of that runway.
We don't want to lose use of that runway. This is almost like insurance. We're spending $360,000 to resurface it. And hopefully at some point Transport Canada will fund redoing the whole runway. It's our 3rd runway that's used the least, but it is used for training purposes. And we have a lot of flight training going on, as you know, at the airport. So I like to use that one runway because has crosswinds a lot on that
Yeah.
runway.
It's good for crosswind training, and it's also very important for taxiing to get to the other runways.
Does the federal government have any funding for that? They don't
Yeah,
say
that's
anything?
the ACAP funding, which we're getting into next, but they're only at this point funding 2 of our 3 runways. This is the 3rd runway and we're doing this so we don't completely lose it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in total, next year, our capital projects add up to 731,854. At the end of the year, we should have 158,000 roughly in the capital fund to carry forward to 2026. So moving on to the 3rd report. And this is the capital report that's funded externally by Transport Canada. It's called the Airport Capital Assistance Program, or ACAP for short. And we have 7 projects we will apply for. We have to do it by an application process with the federal government. So the 7 projects, again, I'll ask Zach to talk about the 7 projects.
So we'll go through them one by one. We've already applied for some of these, but the first one is the front end loader with attachments for 489,000. That is to replace our old 1989 John Deere that we inherited from Transport. So again, a item that is well overdue for replacement. Going into 2026, the snow blower medium. That is to replace our Bucher snow blower that is getting harder and harder to get parts and service on. The next item is a material spreader. That is for spreading de-icing material on the runways. I can't even tell you how old our current material spreader is. But the next item is friction tester. That is to do with, that goes in the truck. Basically, we have it in the truck, you slam on the brakes, it spits out a number and tells you how slippery it is. So we need that equipment to report to the aircraft so they know the runway conditions. Which leads into the next one, which is the electronic runway condition reporting system. Those 2 items go hand in hand together to do that report. Moving into later years, this is projected for 29 to 34. So this is a while out, but looking to replace our plow truck. Currently does not need replacing, but by the time we get to that, 2029 to 34 bracket, it will likely need to be replaced. And the last item for 500,000 would be a grader. We currently don't have one, but we are eligible to get one. So it would just be another tool at our disposal for clearing snow. All of these projects are funded 100% through the Airport Capital Assistance Program. So none of that comes out of our own funding or the RM's funding or anything like that. That is a separate federal program. All of these projects are not necessarily guaranteed because there's a limited $38 million budget they have.
Across Canada.
Across all of Canada. So we apply for things and whether we're eligible or not doesn't necessarily mean we get them. But this is kind of our ideal plan over the next 10 years.
So we all know the airport's 60 years old. We just celebrated the 60th anniversary. So a lot of our infrastructure and equipment is, 50, 60, 40 years old. So we're having to replace a lot of it over the next 5 to 10 years. That's what we're planning on doing.
So can you apply for any provincial funding or grant?
No, it's all federal. We could only apply for the provincial, like for recreation projects, but not for the airport.
Is that the last AMM, we heard how other airports, but I guess it's the northern airports, they team up with infrastructure when they're painting the
Yeah,
lines
those
on
are,
the highway.
those are actually provincial airports. They're under the responsibility of the province of Manitoba.
Okay.
Ours is under Transport Canada.
100%.
So we're a federal undertaking.
Yeah, the other provinces do have similar programs for funding. The Manitoba one only allows for up to $4,800 per year, which is, as the numbers we've talked about is pretty minuscule. So we didn't, even go over that because it's so little. Provinces like Ontario have much larger budgets to support their airports. Manitoba is a little lacking in that sense.
But you wouldn't qualify anyway because you're federal.
That's right.
Yeah.
They give us a pittance of money, the province, each year. Okay, the last report is just an update on the baseball diamond parking lot project. So I'll briefly comment on that. In terms of the funds received in 2024, From the recreation reserve, 113,750 plus from the recreation reserve, the extra cost on the paving, 28,748. From the province, Manitoba, 60% of the total grant. The total grant is 227,500. We received 136,500 so far. And then from the airport reserve, it was put in 113,750. So total funds that came into the project in 2024 are 392,748. On the expenditure side, we spent on 10 line items. They're listed there. I won't go through them in detail. The total of those 10 after GST, because we recovered the GST, is 414,783. So we've overspent at this point by 22,035. That's been funded by the airport bank account at this point. Left to be funded on this project is the other 40% from the province, which is $91,000. So that $91,000 less the 22,000 that has to come back to the airport leaves 68,964 remaining to be spent on the project, and that's earmarked for the hydro seeding, grass seeding of the outfield. So the cost of that comes in over and above the 68,000. The municipality will be responsible for picking up that overage if it goes over that amount. And that's our 4 reports we wanted to bring to your attention today. So is there any questions or comments?
Thank you. Go ahead, George.
Just one question on that parking lot meter you indicated for the paved lot from the baseball diamond field. What exactly is that parking lot meter? You said
It's just cars will be parked there overnight or for weeks on end. People fly up north for 2 to 3 week stints. They'll be paying a daily fee or a weekly fee. It's just to generate a little bit of revenue.
Okay, but it's not for the people going to play baseball there.
No,
It's- Okay,
No, it's for long-term parking.
okay, thank you.
Any other members of the council have any questions? Well, thank you. Excellent report.
Okay, thank you again for the opportunity and we'll see you again. This is our semi-annual meeting. We'll see you again at the annual general meeting in June.
Yes, thank you so much.
No problem.
Nice to see you.
Thanks a lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ and Zach.
So the special meeting of council being adjourned at 5:23 p.m. Pleasure, seconder, Councilor Rickman. All in favor? Very good.